People don't understand, even though I'm scared to say what I want to say, my thoughts and my opinions, because nobody else would say it. Like, whether it's a problem that the law of attraction, psychics, martial arts, Asian community, nobody voiced these things. And so I wanted my voice to be heard. That there is, that our thinking could get us trapped, or that our way of thinking could hurt us in a way, and it doesn't solve any things in our life. Um, that's why I'm scared as hell, to speak my truth, to speak my opinion, regardless what the Asian people think. The Sifu, if you don't know what a Sifu is a kung fu master, right? Whether it's a martial art master, whether it's successful people. But I learned to speak my truth regardless of it, because if I don't speak my truth, nobody will. I mean, I don't think the law of attraction people who teach law of attraction will go against what they have teach or learn. Because there are certain things that I learn, certain ideas that contradict a lot of spiritual teachings, a lot of law of attraction teachings, and a lot of martial art teaching. Um, I think that Freddie, Modern Kung Fu, on his YouTube channel, I think he watched my YouTube channel, I don't know. But, um, I don't mean disrespect to him or anyone or any Sifu out there. It's just that my pain as I go through my suffering as when I was a kid. I love martial arts, but now it's good that Freddie he's doing teaching people his the art, kung fu, and he should do his dream. I don't want him to let his dream die because of people criticizing him. And I don't want that for anybody else. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for anyone else. Um, and today I wanted to talk about Asian culture and Asian American. Um, I used to see, the thing is, every culture has its beauty, has its bad and the good, right? And when I was a kid, uh, people don't know this. My mind was in the mode of the kung fu philosophy, martial arts kung fu philosophy. It was always kung fu this, kung fu that. It's always like sidekick, a punch, um, the kung fu forms, the horse stance, the cat stance. If you don't know that's the term for the kung fu. Um, and then I live in that world. I grew up in a very traditional coach home, even though I live in exist. Whether you're Asian American, whether you live in Asia and you're moved into America or Canada, it doesn't matter. I wanted to speak my truth because there are a lot of things that I want to say that doesn't um, if, if I don't say it, there's like nobody's gonna say it. But uh, so there's nothing wrong with culture, right? It's just the thinking, the traditional thing. I love kung fu, and Freddie talked about in his video, like you should, like there's, you know, that you shouldn't teach a certain student because you're afraid that they will use martial arts or kung fu for harm and hurting others. That's right. That's the correct. You know, when I was young, I didn't want to teach martial arts or kung fu to certain type of people because I don't want them to use martial arts or kung fu to hurt other people. That's not what kung fu is about. Because I grew up watching Wong Fei Hong, the legendary. He was the legendary Chinese hero, and he didn't want other. His philosophy is very um, profound. I like his philosophy to protect people, martial arts is to protect people, to protect oneself or health, whatever that is. Um, I remember I was doing kung fu form in front of a. I used to work at a Sakura Chinese restaurant. I mean, not Chinese restaurant. I used to work at a Chinese, but the Sakura Japanese restaurant, and I was doing kung fu form, and this bartender. She was white and she thought it was karate. I say karate because I hate the word when you say karate. I say, oh, that's weird. Karate, right? Empty hand. And she's like, isn't that for kid? And I kind of it kind of annoyed. I was annoyed by that. I was kind of a little pissed because martial arts isn't for kids either. Like adults practice. This is not. This is not no. Because I like to see, people talk about Asian culture. Um, People often always get distracted, or um, the Asian culture have many beauties, right? That we often miss. A lot of American like Asian culture, right? But we don't see that. Um, we like when people in Asia like the American culture because they have freedom. Because Asian people, they don't have freedom. They have to do certain things, to obey their parents or listen to their and respect their elders, and the Asian people have very high standards, high expectation. But quite frankly, I suck at being Asian. Terrible, man. I don't think Asian parents want me to be there. Anyway, the see, it's sad that Vietnamese American people who were raised and born not knowing the language, that hurt me the most because in that sense I do have a lot of pride in that. Where Asian people should speak their own languages. That's my thing. But because they say that if you speak another language, you're very creative. That's why you see Asian sometimes they're very creative. But people often forget that uh, you know culture borrow from other culture, right? And so we the Asian we have Asian culture have many similar things. I just watch you know food wise is similar, whether it's Vietnamese egg roll, spring roll, or Chinese egg roll, or Japanese egg roll, or all the Chinese fried rice, Vietnamese fried rice, all the food that Asian people consume are very similar, but in different ways. Now, as Asian American, I live in diversity, right? I live in black. I mean, I deal with black, white. I hang with white people, right? When I was a kid. Um, but when I was very young, when I was like, I forgot how, maybe 3, 4, 5, I was hanging out with this um, Asian kid. He was my friend. He was Vietnamese. Um, but okay, let me tell you one time. I don't know if I told this on my YouTube channel yet. I was in third grade, and I thought my friend say some curse word like "fuck you," and I was like, "He's cursing." He said "fuck you," and then the teacher got said, both of you get out or something. I don't remember, but we got in trouble because of me. I don't remember, but and I do have one of my best friend. He's Asian. He's Filipino, but I think a lot of Asian people have different ideas, of course. Um, but for me, I never fit into any culture. I felt like I hated to be an American because I don't know, like because I was raised as Vietnamese, right? But there are good and the bad. The bad is the traditional way of thinking. But let's talk about the good thing about Asian culture. Asian culture have the food. So Vietnamese people have the pho, which American kill all the goddamn time. And I fucking just say, oh, it's po. Some motherfucker, it's not po. It is pho, okay? You gotta put it, because the the Vietnamese has the tone, just like the Chinese, they have the tone, right? And so American, since they say when they sit, they don't see the falling, so they say po. And every time American people say that, English speaking people, they say that it sounds like Paul, right? Every time they say Po, it make me think of Paul. But pho, um, anybody who's American, you should try pho. It's great. But one of my Vietnamese people are famous for the banh mi o, banh mi chalo, banh mi tut, right? That what is that? Banh mi mean like Vietnamese sub, right? They have you like, dude. Okay, so if you're a vegetarian, you can have vegetarian, right? Or you can have meat. Look, I know we have, diversity on my YouTube channel, black, white, Asian, right? Vegans and non-vegans, meat eater, whatever. I don't care. It's just that diversity, what matters, right? Um, uh, so the, the Asian culture has the anime, right? I'm talking about anime here. The Japanese culture has the anime, the samurai swords. The Chinese culture has the Monkey King, right? The Chinese have the heroes and legends like Bruce Lee, Donnie Yen, Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung. Um, what was it? I can't think of anything. The four, uh, of course, Vietnamese people have kung fu too, but they it's they have their own dynasty. But each culture has different signature with it. The Korean, I like their respect for one another when they bow, right? They're always so nice to each other. For me, I felt like an outcast for Vietnamese people sometimes when the Vietnamese people, one thing sometimes I don't like is the I don't care if you're Vietnamese. It's just that why do you have to live in that extreme, right? Think about this. For me, I I was born in and raised into a southern dialect, right? Vietnamese dialect. And they have the North Vietnamese and then it's just like English, right? They have the American and then they have the British. The British is almost like North Vietnamese, and the American is almost like the Southern Vietnamese. And sometimes it's hard to understand North Vietnamese, right? There's the guy singer Sun MTP. He's North Vietnamese, and I love his songs. And I love all diversity songs, whether it's Vietnamese, Chinese, Korean, K-pop, um, what was it, Indian music, all that type of music. But um, what was it, K-pop? Yeah. So there's this thing in Vietnamese culture where the South and the North hate each other. But why can't I want to be accepted by both the Southern and the North Vietnamese, right? And the North Vietnamese don't like the Southern. I was like, what the fuck is? Who cares? Even though we don't, we're fucking Asian, man. Like, we're Asian, right? We're Asian. Okay, it doesn't mean that most people think that the problem with the South and the North and the South, right? I don't know which one is it. Either the South think that they're better than the North, or the North think they're better than the South. I don't care. You're the same. Like, just because. Yeah, I have this. It's um, I care too much for my culture, right? And the what destroyed me the most is that the North and the South doesn't get along. It's like because they I don't know why, but some do, some don't, right? And of course it has the communists. One time I had a history teacher. I love her, but she was speaking it wrong, and she's like Ho Chi Minh. I say no 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 Ho Chi Minh. Okay, he's a communist leader in Vietnam. Um, and the way I say and pronounce the Vietnamese words, that's how I was born and raised, not the American way, not killing it and not you know um, like if you talk about like let's say my favorite also dish in Vietnamese is or Vietnam or it's called banh xèo, Vietnamese pancake, right? Now the way that I wanted to speak also to the problem to the Asian culture because I think that it could be solved if a voice, like people could hear it, that just don't, just be yourself. You don't have to fit in any culture, just be who you are, right? And that I think also Asian Americans don't feel like they fit in anywhere. That they're they or either they're mixed or whatever, they don't fit in. And you know I don't. When I was in high school, I don't. I hang out with the white people a lot. Usually nerds. They like anime, Dungeons and Dragons, and martial arts and Chinese kung fu, Wing Chun, right? And the love of martial arts. I mean, so, but the problem remains still that we Asian culture is very strict in a way that I had one lady. Um, she had to take care of her. She had to grow up so she can take care of her sibling or something, and she was Vietnamese. Oftentimes, Asian siblings have to be the parents too, right? It's tough. It's not easy when you're the parents as a sibling and you grow up. It's not easy. Um, what is? I'm cutting. So what I like about Asian culture is that they have respect for one another, right? They bow. They have either the Kung Fu bow, the Chinese bow, the Vietnamese bow, the Korean bow. I don't even know the other bows, but because when I am when I felt like home was uh, in the Asian community, I felt like home when I was in the even though it's fun and dynamic, right? Because American culture is like extroverted shit. Like everything had to be explosions and loudness. Um, there is loudness, explosion within me. I like to have fun and joke. I don't because of Asian culture don't like childish. They don't like the if you act out or you act crazy, you act immature, you laugh loud, they consider you as immature and you need to grow up. And that's what happened to me. When I was in boarding school, there was an Asian girl. She didn't like my childish nature. I was like, why? But she was more mature than me. I was a kid. And I was like, oh, that's no fun. Because Asian culture has this tendency to, um, we lose that sense of curiosity and fun like nature, like not to be a childish, but to, I love fun. And there are times to be serious and there are times to have fun, right? I lived my whole life having fun. Maybe that's why I lose out on a lot of things that I could have learned in my youth, and I have to catch up with that. You know, education is very important. It's never is or isn't. There's no question whether it's in your personal life, your business life, your entrepreneur life, anywhere type of life is that you have to grow. Otherwise, you will die. Um, I didn't want the Asian culture to die. I just wanted to have fusion. Asian culture is very beautiful, whether the Chinese, the Vietnamese, the Korean culture. When I was working at Sakura, um, I felt like home because whether they're diversity, they're Spanish people, they're Korean people, and Indonesian, right? Because my manager was Indonesian and they have an Indonesian chef. And Asian people, it would be home because they always cook rice, right? The chef would cook rice, Asian food, Chinese. They have the Chinese chef. Chinese chef, I love him. He teach me how to make sushi, and he teach me how to roll up sushi and cut them. I love that. I try to learn. I remember I went to college. I tried to learn Chinese, but I couldn't do it. All I know I can say hun hao, right? And my Chinese friend, right? He speak Mandarin. He's like, nah, Mandarin is better than Cantonese. I was like, what the? And but he's cool though. He's cool Chinese guy. I respect him for that. But he's one of the smartest Asian, even though he's younger than me, but he's smarter than me, right? I always admire for him because Asian people they are very like he's one of those Asian where he's good at math, right? And that's um what was it? And he good at physics and stuff like that, And I admire him for that. He's just a laid back dude. But I felt like home. When I first went to work there, I worked there because I wanted to save up money so I can see my ex. That's the only reason, right? But this is back in like 2011, right? Anyway, and all the Korean chef, I bonded with the Korean chef, the Indonesian chef, and it felt like home. They had the bartender Korean. I forgot his name. I bonded with a couple Korean bartenders. They were cool as shit, and we learned how to we what was it Korean barbecues and soju. Wait, and because of diversity, I learned different culture. In boarding school, I learned many different diversity. I hang out with the Ethiopians because of my ex. She hang out with the Ethiopians. Um, Ethiopians, you can tell whether they're Ethiopian or not. You can tell. So my point is, I like the respect that the Asian culture have, but I just don't like the traditional way of thinking that the we that we have as me, because for me, my generation, we millennials, or we grow up a different time than the kung fu masters, the sifus, the Asian culture, or the parents. You know, parents live in a different world than the millennials, very different. Because we have the technologies, we can connect with one another from different cultures and countries. But the problem remains also in the Asian community is, you should let other Asian date other Asian. I mean, as you should let other Asian date other races, right? Oftentimes, whether it's Asian man or woman, they get mad at Asian people for dating different races, right? Um, the only reason I'm flexible with that because when I was a kid, I fell in love with a white person, right? So I'm flexible with that, right? And so that's the only problem that I think that Asian people should be flexible in their thinking that they should be allowed. The only reason why is that in Japanese culture, right? I was watching a video of Japanese culture where Asian men don't tell the person um, they want well, I was like that too. Uh, because Asian, uh, what was it? For me, what was it? Asian men, they're not like white men. They're not mus. They don't have like was it masculine um, type. Well, if you were born maybe in America, maybe they have some, but Asian men, they're sometimes not sometimes. Some of them are very feminine. I mean, is not like a girl, but they they are very. They have like tendencies. And so I will watch this video, and they don't. The Asian woman, the Japanese woman, expect the Japanese men to say something, to do something, but because of the shyness, the Asian culture, the introvertedness, they don't do anything. They don't express. Um, Fear of rejection, fear that the person, might reject them, or you know, and that's what happened, right? That we don't do anything put forth. We don't try, so we give up. Uh, also the reason why I said this because I'm a very shy person, and when I was younger, I missed the opportunity that I could have told to someone, you know, that I love, but I didn't do it. I missed many opportunities because I didn't try, I didn't say anything because I didn't know how to speak up. When I was in boarding school, I liked the Spanish chick. Man, she was hot. Um, I remember she was running. She was. I was going to. I was a newbie, so I was going to first day to go to boarding school. She was on that bus. I remember that. And but I didn't. But there was two guys trying to flirt with her. I didn't pay no attention because at that time I was trying to focus and I was kind of scared. I wanted to go home. But over time, she was in my group, and uh, I remember she always flush it. You know, when I remember there was a math class, there would be people that, because for me, I wanted to get out of the class, not graduate, just go up one level, and I would try to do my best to do the math. And I would try. I wanted to help people, so because let's say I know certain math, I would help him. I remember the spec. She always protected me. She's like, he's just trying to teach you. She always do that. And but I remember I stood up in class and I couldn't say what I wanted to say. I couldn't tell her how I wanted to tell her. So I stood there, my heart froze because I was afraid of rejection. I was afraid that she might not like me, but the whole time though she do. That's the different thing, right? That I didn't get the chance to do. So now I try to understand things. I try to look for patterns because there's always a patterns and cue and things that people send you out, but you can't see. You don't see it, so you don't try. There there are things that you have to learn how to see, and it's not easy. You have to catch it. That's one of my regret that I didn't do, but that's okay. That I learned from that. That I see. I get to experience what it's like, right? Because oftentimes when I was a kid, I thought, you know, that who wanted to be with me? I was too shy. But I realized it doesn't matter whether you're shy or not. Just put forth. That's pretty much it for the Asian culture. I feel like there's a lot of things that each generation, each culture, uh, whether it's kung fu masters, Asian people, white people, black people, uh, as a global citizens of this world, we can all improve. Whether it's myself, you, or other people. That's my thoughts today. I guess I if I hold out on things, that's oh yeah. There are worse things. I put it down. There are worse. Asian people care for one another, of course, even though whether it's hard time it is, even though they care. Now there's a book that I wanted to do later. It's called In Order to Live, and this Korean girl went through a lot of heartache, a lot of tragedy in her life, and but she wrote it in the book, and North Korea is very tough. Uh, it's strict and it's terrible. I guess she wrote it in her book. So, but the Korean culture is very beautiful in its essence. They have the K-pop, the Korean drama. Heck, I love the every time the freaking when they put the CEO, Korean CEO, man, he's so fucking hot. I will just date him. Um, and they have the kimchi. They got the food that's different, from I like it. Um, that's it. I'll see you guys next time. That's my thoughts on Asian culture and Asian American. That Asian American can improve their uh, languages, their styles, and their culture. That's pretty much it.